the study. That one involved different specialties, including breast, kidney, and colorectal metastases. When we take the surplus tissue and try to culture it for 72 hours, and trying to get a preclinical platform, like a kind of sensitivity for the chemotherapy that these patients need, by testing the new chemotherapy agents on that culture and see the response before we try the chemotherapy on the patient themselves. I'm in my second year in doing that. Today I wanted to talk about the research, and I know like we had guests from Iraq, and I left Iraq not too far ago, and I know like we little bit behind, unfortunately, in terms of research there in Iraq, and that's why I thought my objective and next slide will be about the history of the research. The objective, why do we need to know about the research in our specialty training, is to get a comprehensive knowledge of research and methodology is important for three reasons. As you provide them, is to conducting a proper study during a medical career, submitted the research proposal to regulatory bodies, and submitting the manuscript for publication. My first message here is like what we all agree is to act on evidence, and to act on evidence, research should be there. And three major considerations of research are related to scientific, ethical, and regulatory aspects. Here in the UK, we have the evidence-based practice, which should be the standards of everywhere practice. And for this, for the definition of that, it is the integration of the best research evidence with the clinical expertise and patient values. So we have people who are expertise in their specialties, and they can perform whatever major surgery. But unfortunately, they may don't know actually the feedback of their patients. And this is what comes under the elements of the patient values. They may don't know what this practice may bring as a mortality and morbidity in some other, like in some other hospitals who are trying the same thing. So this is where the evidence-based practice came from. The history of the evidence-based practice, I wanted to simplify it, and I found this very nice sentence: legions, lemons, citructomycin, a short history of the clinical research. And it is interesting and nice because of like the first research in public health conducted in the human era was in Babylon, in Iraq. That was by the king Nebuchadnezzar. Simply, that intelligent man was the first one to think in a way of making a research. He started, like as any other dictator that we know, to enforce his people to eat meat and drink wine, as he believed that this is the best thing for them. But he finds some other rebels and vegetarians who say, no, we cannot do that. And this is a story in the Bible, actually. So they said no. He allowed them to eat only legions and drink water, but for 10 days only. And he said, like, after 10 days, we will compare these two groups to see the difference between the general health status for them. And interestingly, he found the vegetarian diet is better. That was the first. The second, and to like what nowadays, with all respect to Nebuchadnezzar, Dr. James Lind is considered the father, or actually the godfather of the clinical research and the clinical trials. He was one of the surgeons in one of the British ships, and the scurvy was there. So he found the opportunity at that time, where every research comes from. He had a question: how can I manage and he divided the patients in that shift into 6 groups, and 2 patients in each one, and he tried different things for each group. One of them he tried to treat them with water and bed rest, the other was cedar, one of vinegar, and he tried lemon and orange in one of the groups, and after studying, isolating and observing as it should be, he studied the effect, and he found that the lemon is, because of the vitamin C, is the best treatment for scurvy. The first randomized controlled trial coming with this gentleman, Mr. Austin Bradford. You might hear about the story of the streptomycin. He made the first principle for randomization, and he made a really good and well-prepared controlled trial. He had the TB patient and divided them into 2 groups, and again he tried randomly to treat one group with streptomycin, while the other group he tried to treat them with bed rest only, and he found streptomycin is working. So it all came from people who thought, like, what should I do? It is the question. This is the principle. Then a little bit more. Actually, I'll go through these slides because, like, lots of facts in the development of the history of the clinical trials and the research. Consideration of protection of a human right during research started to evolve, and people started to think in a way like how we should get a guarantee that if we try this or that, we're not going to be having the side effects. The ethical foundation related to medical research was first initiated by the Nuremberg Court in 1947 after the German doctors abuses in the Second World War abuses their ability to treat patients and tried different things which brought side effects rather than treatment. The Declaration of Helsinki, which you may have heard about it, in 1946 by the World Medical Association, and which put the ethical principles of research. Then the concept of a critical appraisal and evidence-based medicine was introduced in 1970s and 1980s. Back a little bit to the history. Avicenna, the Arabic scientist, in about 1,000 years ago, he put the first rules he suggested actually the first rules for testing the drugs. Unfortunately, we don't have enough records of that, but in his book, Qanun al-Medicine, he suggested that the clinical trial remedy should be used in its natural state for treatment of illness without complication. And unfortunately, people didn't listen and started to abusing the system. And this is what happened in 1960. You may know about this congenital anomaly happened to those due to the thalidomide. And from there, thalidomide story, if you read about it, like it's a medication where a company started to market, saying like it is a magical remedy for everything. Headache, nausea, anything like this, and they started to treat the pregnant women with that remedy. And after years, this is what happened. So the need for independent evaluation of medical products before marketing was felt in many tragedies, and one of them is in the 1960s, the one that we talked about. And then a harmonization of regulatory requirement was pioneered in the form of good clinical practice guidelines. These nowadays is the standards everywhere in clinical trials. The concept of a critical appraisal and evidence-based medicine was introduced in 1970 and 1980. Sorry, I hate this slide, but I should go through just very quickly. It is the evolution of ethical and regulatory framework, which is important to know about it. The ethical framework of a human subject to protection has its origin in the ancient Hippocratic Oath, which specify a prior duty of physician to avoid harming the patient. The first international guidelines of ethics in medical research coming, as I said before, after the Nuremberg Code in 1947. In 1964, the Helsinki criteria came after from the World Medical Association, and then in 1966, the International Governance of Civil and Political Rights is specifically stated: no one shall be subjected to torture or to cruel, inhuman or degrading treatment or punishment. The FDA was founded in 1962 and had become a law enforcement organization after the US Congress passed the Food and Drug Act in 1906. So, evidence-based medicine, the publication from the evidence-based medicine working group in 1992 defined evidence-based medicine as the new paradigm for medical practice, and that this paradigm, the decisions regarding diagnosis and treatment are no longer solely dependent on a prior clinical experience. So back to the three important elements: clinical experience and best evidence and patient preference. As a result, physician has needed additional skills to understand and apply published information in their practice and to help produce the continuous flow of research supporting this system. One of the big organizations here in the UK is the National Research Collaborative, which is the conglomeration of all trainee research collaborative in the United Kingdom and Ireland. The NRC coordinates nationally to bring high-impact multi-center research, which is delivered by trainees. The importance of the academic skills and research for the training here in the UK, and I believe everywhere, to be a doctor, you should have an element of academic skills. Come from like surgical trainees are expected to, and not only surgical actually, but in this one I highlighted the surgical because of they are far away from the bar work, from the lab work. They're not interested most of the time, and they believe like the medicine is just a skill, unfortunately, but it's not. So surgical trainees, any other trainees are expected to demonstrate academic achievement in order to obtain their certificate of completion of training. This is a fact now. These standards are set by the Joint Committee of Surgical Training and Special Advisory Committee. The standards published, and now it is a requirement. The Association of Surgeons in Training and National Research Collaborative set out to develop a progressive, consistent and flexible evidence set of academic requirements. So they simply try to identify the standards to get the CCT, and people suggested like you should not have CCT before like you conduct a bigger study or you participate in one of them. But because of it will mean like a big burden on the training program, they come into the conclusion that good clinical practice, training and research methodology are requirements, and the end conclusion for the UK trainee is that flexibility in requirement whilst retaining a high standards of evidence is desirable. I tried to rush the couple or three slides because like I know we're very limited in time, and just wanted to deliver a message, especially to my colleague who are our guest here from Iraq, that the research is really important, and to develop any system, it starts usually from research. We have defects in there is no thing perfect, and there is no practice perfect, and to find, to highlight, to improve, to develop the practice, it is really essential to consider the research as part of the training program, especially in Iraq. I'm still in touch with lots of the Iraqi trainees, and unfortunately I feel like this field is slightly deteriorated, unfortunately, but it is one of these doors open here in the UK for all of the Iraqi trainees to come and join without the need to register with the GMC, without like these other headache requirements that you need to practice as a clinician. Iraq can develop a good communication with lots of people here in the UK who are interested in research and start to develop these regulatory things and get the Iraqi trainees involved in research and develop a kind of evidence-based medicine. Thank you so much. Any questions?
Thanks very much, Zaid. That's really wonderful. I really enjoy the history part of it.
I know.
You must have learned so much. It's very good.
Thank you.
I think it's research. I mean, we done research, you and me, Zach, and we published a lot of things. It's not easy to do because really you need the setup there to do the research. Yes, we could do it in Iraq, but I think it becomes difficult. You haven't said the easy part of this. You could work on the physicals, what your everyday work, collect cases or a particular subject, and that's what we call it the audit. So you audit a treatment, you audit a disease, you audit your work, you audit other things, and you present to the country. This is how it started. I spent years in this country. I couldn't do research because I didn't meet the person to teach me how to do research until I met Tom McNicholas and Stevenage, who really first-class researcher. Well, that's where I learned to do my research. But I used to do the audit a lot of things, and I presented to meetings, and you slowly learn things how to do it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Research should be in the undergraduate.
Yes.
Usually epidemiology, usually statistics, and how to criticize paper.
You're absolutely right.
And then it will develop. I did my research on my own, without supervision, which is struggle. And research should be part, as you said, in the undergraduate curriculum.
You're right.
This is one thing. Second, you should not impose research. When you are seeing a registrar, you don't get shortlisted to see a registrar unless you put MD or MS on the table. That is not a good research. Research, you should be interested in topic. You will do it as part and parcel of a clinical.
Exactly. Thank you.
I think we are really focusing on what we can do for Iraq, which is this is the point. I want to elaborate on one point that, yes, I agree with you that we are behind, inside Iraq regarding studies, papers, regarding research, regarding auditing, all this, I think really we need to, let's say, I feel this is my personal thing, we need to raise the standard of that inside Iraq. Because currently, with what's happening inside Iraq, which I will come to a point where I want to go, is that the papers and the studies that raised inside Iraq from any university or whatever or center is already assessed by a local person, inside Iraq, which unfortunately I think some of them, they don't know even about the process of assessment, about what is the real research and how to raise the standard. And that's coming, that is a vicious, I think, negative circle. And that's why I think, I'm saying personal before 2 years, I wrote a paper to the embassy of Iraq here, to people, because by meeting with them to tell them that, see, we can do something to assess all papers coming from Iraq voluntarily. We can arrange, even I spoke to Prof. Munder and others about some project, and we wrote to them about possible doing teleconferencing, possible training regarding that, possible assessment of papers voluntarily without additional cost. Unfortunately, more than a year. They encourage us, we send the paper for that, and there is no one implement simple thing of that.
So I'm sorry, but back. Thank you so much. Thank you. Back to what Mr. Sudani said. I agree. Like, yeah, especially like for the undergraduate level or doctors at the junior level, audit is a very good measure. Like to highlight the wrong things that we do in our practice, and this is where the question can come from. So if you do something wrong, it's better than like try to hide it, which is unfortunately the practice somewhat. It is better to highlight that and try to find a solution. We're all human, we can make mistakes, and audit can highlight them, and then the next step is the question, and then to find the solution, and then to implement the changes. This is how the evidence-based medicine work.
Yeah, it is not only, just can I add something, it's not
Sure.
A wrong thing in our practice. It is sometimes it's right and good.
You're right.
To improve it better.
You're right.
To improve it. So
You're
that's,
right.
that's the point.
Yeah, and what Prof. Munda said, like to involve the undergraduate student, the